Penguin Random House Audio presents The Widower's Notebook, a memoir. This is the author, Jonathan Santlofer. How to begin. Do I start with the part where I'm paralyzed, back pressed hard against the living room wall, shrinking into it but watching as if through a lens, zooming in and out of the action, near then far, all of it taking place no more than 5-6 feet in front of me, firemen pushing the coffee table aside, books toppling, paramedics rolling my wife onto the floor, one tearing open her blouse and searching for a heartbeat, another pressing her chest up and down as a second team races in and a woman takes over, flips open a black bag and inserts a tube down my wife's throat, everything happening in hyperspeed, while I stare at my wife's face gone pale and the room going gray and grainy as an old photograph. Or do I start 10, 20 minutes earlier? Impossible to track the time. When I come into the living room and even from 20 feet away I can see that something is terribly wrong. My wife Joy on the couch beckoning to me, mouth open but unable to speak, her eyes large and terrified, and I rush to her side and she grips my arm, and I pull her to me and frantically attempt to dial 911, trying to punch in 3 simple numbers but can't get them right, as my wife gasps for breath and I say over and over, "Take it easy, honey, breathe, hang on, you'll be okay," trying hard to sound comforting and rational, as a voice comes on the phone and I say, "My wife, she's not breathing," and the woman on the other end, speaking calmly, how is that possible, asks my name and address, and I am shouting now, "Hurry, please," and minutes later, I think it's minutes, time is spiraling, collapsing. Firemen and paramedics burst on the scene, push the coffee table aside, and roll my wife onto the floor and tear open her blouse, while I am backed up against the living room wall, watching the unwatchable, watching my wife die. Part 1. Before. Chapter 1. Nothing out of the ordinary. Joy went into the hospital on a Thursday morning in mid-August. A torn ligament or a tendon of the knee, a torn meniscus to be specific. Outpatient surgery, no big deal, that's what the doctor said. She had torn it walking up, or was it down, a flight of stairs at the Museum of Modern Art, and limped around for weeks until finally making the decision to have surgery. The night before we binge-watched Episodes, the Matt LeBlanc TV series. It had become a favorite and we loved watching and re-watching it when either one of us was in a bad mood or feeling anxious, and Joy was anxious, though I kept reassuring her everything would be okay. Why wouldn't it be? I'm sure Joy went to sleep before I did. She always did. I stayed up with Andrew Solomon's Far from the Tree, which I'd been reading all summer, and did that night until at least midnight, possibly later. I can't remember anything specific or dramatic about the next morning, only being at the hospital, squeezing Joy's hand before she was led away to surgery, then settling into the waiting room. I don't remember what I did or what I read. So many of the mundane, everyday things have been excised from my memory to make room for the awful ones. When the surgery was finished, we met up in recovery. Joy looked fine. Her doctor, whom I'd not met before, breezed in for a minute, didn't say much, and seemed in a hurry to go. He had the cocky arrogance of an aging jock, and I didn't like him. I helped Joy dress and we took a cab home. We had already rented the prescribed ice machine from the same doctor's office that encased her leg under a thick canvas wrap that bulged and bloated with icy water pumped through the machine. The rest of the day was normal, other than the fact that Joy was mostly on the couch, leg up, ice machine doing its thing. She walked to and from the bathroom, from bedroom to living room, a good distance in the flower market loft we'd bought together more than 30 years ago, and she did this many times because she'd been told to walk. For a while, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Chapter 2. 911. It is late morning of the following day. Joy is on the living room couch and has been all morning, reading Wolf Hall or going over notes for Food City, the epic book on the history of New York food she is writing. when she complains of her leg feeling odd and twitchy, and I notice that her face is flushed. I put my hand against her cheek. She feels warm. I ask her if she thinks she has a fever, and she says she isn't sure, but doesn't feel quite right. I suggest she call the doctor, and she does. She tells the nurse or receptionist her symptoms: flushed face, possible fever, odd twitchy feeling in her leg, and says that she's feeling congested, having some difficulty breathing. There is some conversation back and forth, no more than a couple of minutes, if that. When she hangs up, she says she's been told to wait until her follow-up appointment on Tuesday. It is a Friday in mid-August. That's a long time to wait, I say, and ask again if she feels okay. She says not really, but the doctor's office does not appear to be worried, so she is neither. No one wants to be bothered on a summer weekend, I say. I have a few errands to run, some food, computer paper, more ice for the machine. I tell Joy I'll be back in an hour, and I am. Joy is still on the couch, reading. I refill the ice machine. Her leg, she says, is feeling very twitchy. I suggest we take the ice pack off and have a look, but she doesn't think it's a good idea. Do we talk about anything else? Dinner, I think, but I can't remember. After more than 40 years of marriage, we communicate without a lot of talk. When we were first together, we talked nonstop. We'd met as undergrad art students at Boston University. I was a painting major, Joy the more practical one, studying art education. A blind date neither one of us wanted. A friend of hers knew a friend of mine. I remember going to pick her up at her dorm, watching her come out of the elevator and walk toward me in her beige mini jumper, dark tights that showed off her legs, waist-long auburn hair, adorable pug nose and freckles. Irish, I thought, though it turned out she was Jewish. On the MTA trolley we talked easily, and she smiled a lot, and I noticed her perfect teeth, braces I later learned, then her beautiful hands, long tapered fingers and surprisingly long nails, unlike other art school girls whose nails were usually cut short and crusted with paint, like mine. I'm in my studio at the back of the loft, too far away to hear if Joy calls. Down a long hallway, past the kitchen, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and Joy's office. Plus, my studio walls are soundproof. But she has her cell phone in case she needs me, and I can be by her side in less than a minute. In the studio, I get to work on a book I've been trying to finish, about a cop who loses his family in a random shooting. A novel with a loose association to Crime and Punishment, which I had recently reread and had become obsessed with. My novel was unresolved, though Joy, always my first and best reader, liked it and encouraged me to keep going. I remember thinking that I had gotten something wrong, something very basic to the story, that the villain, a hitman at the end of his days, should be the stand-in for Raskolnikov, not my hero cop, which is the way I had written it. It seemed like a revelation, and I made notes on how I might rewrite it. Normally, Joy would be right next door in her office, also soundproof, though we shared a wall. We had been working at home together for the past decade. Though there were times I found the togetherness a bit much, there was comfort in it too, like having an artist's colony of 2. In grandiose moments, I could imagine we were Dashiell Hammett and Lillian Hellman, or Joan Didion and John Gregory Dunn. My Raskolnikov notes did not take long. I couldn't have been in my studio for more than a half hour before going back to check on Joy, though she had not called. Halfway down the hall, I see her face is pale, and she's reaching out to me. In my head, I hear her say, "Where have you been?" But I don't think she says anything. Her ability to speak already reduced to a croak, her eyes wide with a look I've never seen before, something between terror and pleading. I rush to her side and get my arms around her. She's gasping for breath, and I tell her to breathe slowly as I fumble with my cell phone, or was it hers? From the time I speak to the 911 operator until the firemen and paramedics arrive seems like hours, though it's only a matter of minutes. The whole time, I'm cradling Joy in my arms, telling her to breathe slowly. Her eyes open wide, and she grips my hand tight.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?